What is up? We're in beautiful Toronto, Ontario, and I'm with this absolute legend, Kai Hanson. Kai, how you doing?
I'm all right. I'm doing fine. It's a nice day in Toronto. Looking forward to the show and ready to rock.
Well, thank you very much for joining me. So,
You're welcome.
the Helloween is currently on tour with Hammerfall and the United Forces tour. How's the tour been going?
So far, pretty good. Actually, quite well. All the shows were pretty much sold out, and very, very enthusiastic audiences we had. It was like a big homecoming after such a long time of absence, and it's been a blast so far. So.
I assume it's been very refreshing getting back on the road since having the pandemic.
Oh, fuck the pandemic! Yeah. That was not cool. And of course we developed some hunger again.
Well, we're back at it. We'll have some fun tonight.
Yeah.
With the tour, do you find there's a huge difference between the crowds in North America, South America, and Europe?
Yes, in some way, yes. I mean, North America has been surprisingly enthusiastic, as I said. Because normally you would say like South American people, they are like wild at heart, you know, they have this temper and they're crazy, and that's true. It's what it is. Compared to people in Europe, Northern Europe especially, and North America. But I really had to realize we had some crazy people. I mean, we had like mosh pits and stuff like that, which is not really standard practice on our shows, you know.
Must be a cool change to see it happen, though.
Absolutely, yeah, we're happy, and you know, we have like, of course, we have like people that are old already because you know they grew up, but they bring their kids to the show that are, you know, that love the band too, and then there's other youngsters, young teens that, you know, maybe they got into the heavy music with something like Nirvana or so, and then look back, and then it reminds me of my past, you know, when I started. It was glam rock, with Sweet, Slade, T-Rex and stuff like that. And then I started looking back into the history of where it came from, and I ended up with Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix and all that stuff. So it's the way it goes.
Some bands that a lot of people would argue are the foundation of metal.
Foundation of metal. We are a foundation of metal. Now, I mean, for me, heavy metal started with Black Sabbath, I would say.
I think I'd agree with that.
Yeah, totally. And then, of course, and it was because everything else before was hard rock, like UFO, Uriah Heep, and those bands. There was no heavy metal at that, but Black Sabbath, that's where heavy metal started in some way, or how heavy metal started, the term, and it's kind of iron-like music. And then I fell into the punk rock thing totally, with Ramones and Sex Pistols, and so I really liked that. And then the new wave of British heavy metal came out together with AC/DC. I remember AC/DC came up, and it was like, because somebody said there's an Australian punk band called AC/DC, and I listened to them, and I didn't really think it was punk, and actually it wasn't, you know. It was like heavy metal rock and roll, I would say. And then I went to the show of AC/DC in Hamburg, and the support band was a band called Judas Priest.
Little bands.
And that hit me. I completely fell in love with that band, you know, totally. It blew me away. So from that point on, the new wave of British heavy metal was like the way to go.
Cool. And it's kind of cool to see that genre that there's some bands like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Def Leppard that just explode, and other bands that.
Oh, there was a shitload of bands, you know, like. If I try to remember all the names, it gets fuzzy in some way, but there was a band called More. They had a cool album out, which I really liked back then. There was the band Holocaust, and I even covered that with Gamma Ray, Heavy Metal Mania song, and tons more, you know, a lot of cool bands.
Cool. So, with this tour right now, you're touring in support of the new Helloween album, Helloween. With that album being out, how does it affect the process of writing a set list for the tour?
Well, it makes it even more complicated, I would say. You know, of course, you want to play stuff from the new album, because it's new and it's fun, you know, because the old stuff you know already, but you cannot include too many songs because you have to play all the old classics and you want to do that.
Yeah.
And so we just try to pick something out. I mean, I think at the moment we only have 2 songs on the set list. There's Skyfall and we have Mass Pollution.
Best time?
And Best Time,
Yes.
yeah, true. So that's 3 in a 2-hour set. It's not overly much, but I think it's fair enough. It's okay. And of course we get the question, why don't you play this? Why don't you play that?
You're never going to please everybody.
Exactly. Yeah, but we're happy we have a good set now and a good mix between old and new, and that's fine.
Cool. Yeah, with Skyfall, which is a brilliant song, did you find any sort of added pressure to writing it? Because I think there's a lot of fans who are going to listen to that and look at it as the epic of the album. So is there any added pressure kind of knowing that?
Yeah, the thing is how it happened is I started songwriting for this Helloween album, and I had tons of ideas and, you know, started working on them, and then it was like none of it seemed to satisfy me. Everything was not good enough, and because I knew this is a crucial album and I wanted it to be special and, you know, contain the Halloween spirit, but on the other hand offer something new. And I was like literally running against the wall with my ideas, you know, some were too far out, some were too much like cliche, what would be expected, and I set my standards very, very high. And then the initial idea for Skyfall formed, and immediately I knew that's got something. At that point I didn't know it was going to be some long epic song or something like that. I just started working on it and put all my effort into that. And here you are.
Well, you know what? It's an absolute brilliant song, so fantastic job on it.
Thank you.
When you rejoined Halloween back in 2017, did you find it weird kind of going back and relearning a lot of the older songs along with now learning a lot of these newer Andy-era songs?
Not weird, challenging, I would say.
Okay.
And relearning the old stuff that we did before that I of course had completely forgotten how to play. And then the new stuff that they did with Andy, that was a challenge, but we took some time before we started rehearsing. Andy, Vicky and Sasha and me, we sat together in Hammer in my home for 2 weeks and just went through the things song by song and, you know, split the guitar parts, and that was pretty good because, you know, we were prepared for the rehearsal as a band then. And in the end it was a piece of cake, but it was work, definitely, you know.
Fair enough. It also wasn't just like you were trying to learn 5 or 6 songs. You guys were doing like a 24-song set list.
Yeah, it was especially for this first tour where we played 3 hours.
Yeah.
It was pretty intense, you know, and of course during the rehearsals it was just like, because so many like take some solo parts and they're kind of similar but different, and then you start confusing things like, which one was that? You start playing the solo of the other song in that song, and until you settle with that and you have the routine and everything is like burned into your brain, takes a while, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember when we started the tour, even then still after, and we rehearsed long and intense, even then it was kind of shaky in the beginning, you know. I had to concentrate to not confuse things and, you know, play things right. But then after a while, when the routine sets in, you play blindly, you don't have to look on your fretboard, or you don't have to focus on what comes next.
It's all muscle memory.
And then that's where the fun starts, actually.
Cool. Let's go back to when you rejoined. What do you think was the biggest surprise for you?
The biggest surprise?
Yeah.
Okay, if we're talking about surprise, or something kind of that was not to be expected, was how well Andy and Mickey got along.
Okay.
That was because nobody knew. I mean, 2 alpha singers, that could go very, very wrong. But soon we had to learn that these guys are like this, you know, totally amazing.
No ego,
like an
no
old
bullshit.
couple, and no animosities, no stupid competition thoughts or stuff like that. They were, from the start, they were kind of really working together and hanging together all the time was even scary at some point. It was like, what's wrong with them? But no, that was surprise. That was a surprise in some way, and everybody's very happy about that.
I bet, because I think if you got those two and it didn't click or they weren't enjoying being around each other, it would have shown on stage.
Oh, totally, yeah. People
Yeah.
would have, and I guess that's part of the chemistry that we bring across on the stage, that people actually see there is no fake. I mean, we're enjoying what we're doing, we're enjoying each other, and there is no, it's not about money, it's not about fame and fortune, you know, it's a nice part of it to take along, but the basis that comes across on stage and which is there is that we are really like 7 guys who like each other and who enjoy playing music together without being in competition or something.
Good. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
So going back in time a little bit, you leave Helloween. Helloween proceeds to release Pink Bubbles Go Away, Chameleon, and Master of the Rings.
Mm.
Do you recall what your thoughts are on those albums when they first came out?
Yeah, I can give you a brief summary.
Yes.
When Pink Bubbles went out, I was totally curious, of course, what they do after me. And I really liked them. I thought they had great songs and it was great performance and the sound was cool. There was only something that kind of was disturbing. And I'm not talking about the cover with the X on the eyes and stuff.
Yes.
That was a bit like, okay, stepping away from the old habits, which is fine, you can do that as a band. But something within what came across from what I heard, it was, I don't know, there was some kind of dark cloud hanging over it in some way. Maybe you have to know the band, I have to be like sensitive to realize, and it was there. I mean, later on, there was on one hand Ingo getting more into problems, and the other thing was that during the production, as far as they told me, there was a lot of, it didn't, let's put it that way, it didn't go smooth.
Okay.
There was a lot of stress, and so I kind of felt it. But on the other hand, I really like the album. I think it has great songs and everything.
Brilliant
Yeah.
songs.
And then Chameleon came out, and everybody was like, "What the hell are these guys doing?" You know, like turning to a pop band. And I liked some stuff on it, but I never really got into that album too much. You know, it's like it was weird at that point. Looking back now, if I listen to it now, I think it's a cool album. It's like, you know, why not step out of your usual routine? But generally, it summed up what we had before I left the band. We had discussions about the musical style and what we want to do, and it was like some people in the band that said, no, we have to be more like the Beatles, and do you want to do that metal shit all the time? We have to reinvent ourselves and stuff like that. And that was not my cup of tea, actually. I mean, reinvention is good, but not, you know, do something completely different. They tried, and it's fine, you know. I think every band, if you look back, every band has done that at some point in their career, and it's good to do it.
Yeah.
And Master of the Rings, of course, I was curious after Kiss Me left the band, and I really love that album. Really like it very, very much. It's very cool.
Cool. Do you think, kind of, that's what you said, do you think, had you stayed in the band, there would always kind of been a chance of Chameleon happening, whether if you were there or not?
It would have happened maybe, but it would have been a little different, you know, with my 2 cents of input. But it's a very speculation. Who could know what would have happened if?
The what if. The what if question.
The what if question,
Yes.
Exactly. Who knows?
So,
Case that up.
changing gears a little bit. So I've seen on Instagram you have a Mustang.
Mm-hmm.
So what drove you to get something like a muscle car over something European?
I actually always liked the Mustang, you know, especially the new edition. Every time I saw one, I was like, oh yeah. And then before my wife got to be my wife, she told me that she dreamt of us in a red Mustang. And that gave me the final kick. So, okay, and I found one, and I loved it and bought it.
Awesome. Do you remember what got you into muscle cars?
The muscle. No, I just love these things. You know, they look cool. They make something else like I don't know.
They're
Because
big,
I'm
they're
a
loud.
man, something like that. You know, it's
They're big, they're loud, they're in your face.
yeah, exactly. They're kind of badass. I like that attitude.
Oh, fair
you
enough.
know?
And I think like there are some European muscle cars, especially back in the 70s and whatnot, but
Oh yeah.
I don't think there was anywhere nearly as many as what North America got.
I actually had one old when I started my driving. It was an old Opel Manta
Okay.
GT. That was a muscle car at that time already. Yeah.
There's a few of those over here, but they're pretty rare.
The Manta A, the A version with the double headlights. It looked a
may have
bit
seen
like
one of those.
like a Corvette. Not Corvette, bullshit. What's the other one? Damn. It was a bit of a copy of a. Damn, what's the American car? I don't come up with it now. It's like.
Right. It'll be put right here. So what do you think is your
Camaro. It was a bit like
Okay.
a Camaro, yeah.
Okay.
Like old Camaro.
Yeah. Still a cool car. So what do you think what do you believe is your favorite car ever? If you had to pick one. Always a tricky question.
That's tricky, yeah. For now, it's the Mustang.
Fair.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic cars, and I think here a lot of people have just gotten used to them
Yeah.
because you've been here for a few days. You've been touring North America for a few weeks now. You've got to see a fair bit of them at this
It's pretty
point.
popular in Europe too.
Okay.
See a lot of Mustangs driving around in Germany
Cool.
with the new edition. It's
Oh, right.
selling
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, that thing also had a pretty funny history getting to Europe, where they weren't going to bring any V8 cars at first,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was kind of backlash for that. It's like, all right, we'll bring V8 cars as long as they sell, and they actually outsell the V6s and 4-cylinders in Europe.
In Europe, you can get the GT version of the Mustang and the 2.7 liter machine.
The EcoBoost,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
EcoBoost. Right, exactly.
still a great little engine.
Yeah, it's still fine. You know, it's okay.
Yeah,
But okay, it's not a GT.
fair enough. It doesn't have that roar.
It's half muscle car.
All right, so I think we're starting to come to the end. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
So,
Pleasure.
last thing I wanted to ask, if you can give new bands any advice, what would you give them?
Oh my god, this question.
I'm sure you've been asked this once or
Play
twice.
your fucking ass off. Be good. Rock. Before you switch on any computer, go to the fucking rehearsal room and play together. Because in the end, that's what counts when you have to play live at one point. I mean, you know, you can make like fantastic demos with today's technical means, but that doesn't count. I mean, that's one thing, that's fine. You can even, meanwhile, you can use AI to make your singer sound decently good, but when you stand on stage, that all doesn't count anymore. So unless you bring everything from the computer, and that's cheating.
I've seen some bands do
That's
that.
not rock and roll. So go to the rehearsal room with your buddies, have a few beers, and play as much as you can.
You heard from this legend. Kai, thank you very much.
Thank you. My
Time.
pleasure.
Looking forward to the show tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you all for watching. See you later.
That'll